welcome everyone. Welcome to our public info session on EPIC, which is a dynamic, free platform for all high schoolers to use to engage directly with admissions officers from all over the country. And we are going to talk today with three of my wonderful colleagues, Amy, Joanne, and Remy. So without further ado, I am going to let them introduce themselves, and then we'll talk all things EPIC at that point. So Joanne, if you could take it, go ahead first and introduce yourself.
Thank you, and hello everyone. My name is Joanne Pluff. I'm an Associate Dean of Admission here at Hamilton, and I'm just excited to get the opportunity to talk about EPIC.
Hi everyone, my name is Remy. I use she, her pronouns. I am from Carleton College. I've been working quite a bit with the EPIC program this year. Excited to be here as well.
All right, and I know Amy is with us here. Amy, see if you can turn your video on now. Okay, wonderful.
Thank you, Jungrak. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Jarek, and I am super excited to be here with you. I am actually calling in from London, but I moved here from the US where I worked in admissions for about 20 years. So I'm super excited that this platform is such a really powerful way to connect admissions and students who want to talk to admissions.
Great. And my name is Jungrak King, and like Amy, I'm also with InitialView and bringing you the EPIC platform from InitialView. And like Amy, I was also had the pleasure to be part of the admissions team, but at a different university. I was with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology for several years. So we're all excited to come wearing our admissions officers hats, but also to talk just more nuts and bolts about how this platform works. So again, as I said, this is a very casual conversation about EPIC and how students can use it. So if you're a counselor, definitely good information to pass on to your students. If you are a student, welcome. This information is definitely geared for you. So you'll see that there's a Q&A box. As you think of your questions, please go ahead and type it in. We will try our very best to answer all your questions by the end of the hour. So first, we're going to show you a quick video, just less than 3 minutes long, where a former student who went through the EPIC process will explain how it works. So let's see here. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Angelica Pilcastra, a rising sophomore at Yale University. And as someone who has used the elevator pitch before and greatly benefited from it, I would highly encourage all students who are pursuing higher education to use EPIC, Elevator Pitch Incoming Class. EPIC is a platform where you get to record a 90-second video of yourself, really showing who you are and what you're interested in, to really put a face to your name. It adds a personal touch to the college application process that you really can't get anywhere else. At the same time, though, undergraduate admission officers are also recording their own elevator pitches, trying to sell off their schools to you. After you've watched a few of their videos, maybe broaden your horizons and discovered a university that you didn't know was the perfect fit, you can get to choose your top 5 schools. These schools will receive your elevator pitch, and then their undergraduate admission officer will send their own video to you, and hopefully start a connection. Other undergraduate admission officers are also able to see your video though, and if they think you're awesome and super cool, they will come to you and recruit you. As someone who has been through the college application journey, I can tell you that one of the best things I did for myself was know my options. And what a better way to know your options than to talk to admission officers directly. I was fortunate enough to be in a community-based organization called the Nicholas Academic Center, who would let us talk to admission officers in small group settings. This let me ask questions as random as, what's the weather like? Or what do you like to do for fun on the weekends? It really humanized the college application process in a way that no other college presentations ever had. EPIC creates this same space, but makes it 10 times more accessible. Especially in today's climate when we really can't be traveling, EPIC lets you stay in the comfort of your own home, recording your own videos, and it really puts you in the driver's seat of your own college search process. You guys, it's rare to get a chance to talk to an admissions officer and make a personal impression. So if you have EPIC and you have this tool, why not take advantage of it? It could make a huge impact to your college search process, and who knows, maybe even the next 4 years of your life. So why not go for it, take a chance, and make your college search epic?
Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing your elevator pitch. Take care, guys.
Thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see your elevator pitch real soon.
I look forward to learning more about you and your own elevator pitch.
We are super excited to learn more about you through your elevator pitch.
And I look forward to learning more about you in your own elevator pitch.
And I cannot wait to get to know you in your elevator pitch.
I look forward to listening to your elevator pitch. Bye.
See you soon.
Bye.
Okay, I am going to try my best to share screen, see if I can actually walk through this process with you, show you what it's like to do your pitch. Let's see how this goes. All right, I'm not seeing any, I'm seeing only happy faces on the screens. Good, okay, so I'm going to make an elevator pitch for EPIC. And I just want to show you how easy it is, how quick it is. Obviously, I'm not a high school student, but I'm going to pretend like one just for a minute. I'm going to actually get you to, as you think about what to do on this page, I'm going to get you to focus in on some really small print at the bottom. You'll see that we actually have deadlines for EPIC to be able to meet the university's recruiting patterns, right? So in September, there's a deadline. And for this current process, we're looking at an April 30th deadline. So this reminder is here for you. It'll be here in the fall. It'll have the exact deadline for the fall. For the spring, it'll have exact deadline for the spring. Really important that you don't miss the opportunity, and try not to procrastinate either. All right, so here's what I think is really cool as we move on down. These are those videos. You just saw tiny little clips of it. We're going to pretend like for this experience that I've watched all of them. I actually think it's really important to know that it's a lot. And I think as you watch them, they're short, they're quick, but it's worth sitting still and trying to absorb as many as you can. Really just making notes of things that look interesting to you, maybe some you didn't know, and some that maybe just you knew, but you didn't know enough about, or more importantly, you didn't know a person there and now you do. All right. Done with that part of my exercise, I'm going to go ahead and make an EPIC pitch. All right, here I am. Welcome to EPIC. I'm going to click here because I'm not registered. I'm brand new, and I'm going to put in some really basic information about me. Let's try this. Obviously not let's see, my email address, 3sample@gmail.com. Password, I'll make one up. Password. Okay, all right. So the terms of use are here if you or someone in your circle wants to read them. Create the account. When you click that, you've agreed to the terms. Now I can see it's me for sure because I've got my email up top. Always check to be sure that it's registered, that your email is as you think you typed it. And then what we want to try to do is just consider the environment for a minute. So you heard, I think, when we talked about this, that admissions officers are going to get to see it. You want to try to eliminate all distractions so they're only focused on you. So finding a quiet place with good lighting is important. I've tried my best. I will tell you that these aren't perfect. Real world is going on around you. My dog might bark. My neighbor is currently working on an upholstery product. So who knows what noise will come, but I've tried my very best to get a good backdrop and a quiet space and good lighting. All right, I'm gonna click now to turn on my camera. You'll see in the corner there is a timer. And my initial view wants to use my, yes, of course, go ahead. All right, here I am. In the timer, the timer is set at 90. So when I start recording, it's going to go down and it's going to start turning red when it's time for me to wrap it up. So I don't have to do any of the work. It's going to do it for me. So here we go. Hi, my name's Amy Jarek, and I am super excited to meet you through my elevator pitch. I am actually tonight sitting in London. I'm not from London though. I'm actually from a really small town in Virginia. And I think maybe because of the differences I've seen just living in different places and having homes in multiple spaces of, communities that are all different, I'm pretty sure that what I want to study is in the social sciences and being able to think about all the different ways that I've encountered people, and maybe economics, maybe if it feels like that's a good career decision, but I actually mostly am interested in like psychology and sociology. Again, I think it's because I've met so many people as my family has moved from place to place over the last few years. And so I'm excited about going to a university as well. Mostly the roommate situation, really, I love the idea of communal living. I'm also really excited about learning languages. It's been a weird year. I didn't get to do the volunteer activities that I might have outside of my home this year. So I really focused on learning more languages. I spent a lot of time learning languages online, and I'm really looking forward to maybe getting a chance to practice that on campus. So until then, there you go. Hi, my name's Amy. Now it's gonna play back. Let's pause that. Okay, here's what I want to make sure you know. I didn't write a script. I was just talking about myself. I was talking about kind of where I'm from and how that might impact what I'm thinking about college search. There's no application that I've filled out, right? So there's nothing to verify this. This is just me talking as if I had just met somebody and in a very short time. I kind of want them to know what I'm thinking about my college search. My sense is that I would love to re-record this. I didn't watch the timer close enough, and I certainly had a few places where I could be more concise, but for this exercise, we're gonna use it. We're gonna move forward. For your exercise, this is a start, right? And if it's not what you want it to be, you just simply say, delete this and record it again. It's easy, but it is important to remember that you are deleting this video. So if I press this button, what I just made will disappear. I won't be able to retrieve it, and we will start all over. The 90-second timer will be back, and we'll do it again. I can do that as many times as I like. Again, for this exercise, we'll stop here, but I think it's important for you to know you have that freedom to watch it back and to re-record. You'll notice there's no edit button here. I don't get the chance to go back and edit. This is just me for 90 seconds straight as I presented, and I think that is, and we'll hear later from admissions officers, but I think that's one of the true gifts of this, because you are who you are for 90 seconds straight, unedited, just you and your voice. If you do want to block out your video and just have your voice come through, that is an option. It's certainly something that is a personal preference, but it's there for you. Showing your counselor, we feel, is a good way for you to get feedback. And so we've added this as an opportunity. I'm just going to sample for you how it looks. So if I say show my counselor, I'm going to send it to Jungrock. And oops, hold on. Put too many letters in. Jungrock, there we go. And then I'm going to get this that says, congratulations, Jungrock can see it now. And so she has access to watch my video, and I'll talk to her later and she can give me feedback about it. Okay, so one of the things that's important is that we want to make sure that you fully understand that this is about creating conversations and creating this link between you and the admissions office. So we also want to be sure that you click this box, and when you do, you'll see that the send to EPIC colleges lights up. Now, keep in mind, I'm logged in. So if I send it to Jungrock and I want to wait for feedback, I can. I don't have to send it right now. I can wait for feedback, log in later and send it. But remember the deadlines, so don't delay. All right, I'm going to send it. There we go. Now that I've sent it, I'm going to complete my profile. So this is really important just to be able to complement what I've put in my video, and to help universities understand what I'm looking for, kind of where I'm coming from. If we, well, if you filled out, and you did, the intro bit, you've got this information already here. I'm going to pretend like I have a birthday coming. And okay, so there we go. I just filled in the rest. Then you just have to put in your high school. Again, these are all things that you basically probably know by heart, think about every day, but you just have to fill them in here. Oops, there we go. I'm gonna assume when you're entering into college that you're looking at fall, but if you are perhaps thinking of entering in January term, that's here for you as well. I'm going to put fall of 2022. And then this is really interesting because if you are associated with an organization in your community that works with you on college-bound conversations and college-bound activities, this is a great space for you to acknowledge that. So make sure that if you have a program you're affiliated with, if it's on this list, click it. I'm just going to pick one. If it's not, you can click no affiliation and add one. It's pretty easy. Okay. Yes, I would like my counselor who works at Emerge to see my video. All right. There we go. Okay, now here we go. You can choose 3 of these. I said in my video that I'm interested in foreign language, humanities, social sciences, so that's a good match. My academic preferences, what kind of school do I want to attend? I'm not sure, and it's okay that I'm not sure. So I'm going to put no strong preference. Where do I want to be? I can choose as many of these as I like. I'm going to say I grew up on the East Coast. That sounds fun. I know some people in the Midwest. I think I'd rather be in a busy space. So I'm going to pick those. But you can pick them all if you're not sure, or you can be very specific if you think you've narrowed that down. Okay, this is important just to be sure that universities have some idea of where you are academically. It might mean that they actually have great conversations they can start with you about academic resources on campus. It might mean that it's a really good way to just kind of start a conversation with you about places where you are succeeding and places where you find your most academic interest. So I'm going to pick mostly Bs. By the way, no one is going back to check this, right? This is all self-reported information. We are trusting you to tell us as much as you like. And obviously, if you prefer not to share, you don't have to. All right, my profile is complete. So I've done the video. I've done my profile. Here's the fun part. All of those videos that I watched before on that first section, now I have hopefully made good notes and can just go back quickly and pick some. So I have 5 to pick. I'm going to start here, maybe here, 1, 2, 3. Watch this. I'm going to pick 4. I'm going to go back up top and I'm going to review my list. It's giving me this sort of opportunity to add another, because why not, right? This is a great opportunity. So you may only find 4 on the list that you're absolutely ready to give your high five to. That, when you see this, means go back and watch some more. Find a 5th one, because you're guaranteed to get a response from your programs. You can also change the list here, right? All right, let's go back to the full list. Pick 5. All right, look at that. Review my list and send my high fives. All right, there they go. I'm done. It's done. And I actually think it hopefully feels to you, it certainly does to me, like it's easy. It's just asking me to give my preferences, to do my video, and to learn from universities, and then to give them a high five at the end. I also want to make sure in this process, you know that all of this was to be able to start a conversation. So every one of those high fives that I picked, I am guaranteed to get a response from those schools. So now I sit back and wait until the admissions officers get this information, and then they'll start to send me their videos. They'll start to talk to me through a video platform where I will learn more about them, just like they learn more about me when I made my EPIC pitch.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Amy. So we heard from Amy going through the whole process, what the process looks like as a student. So now we're going to turn it over to our admissions officers that are here with us today to hear what it was like on their end, receiving video pitches like the one that Amy created just now. So EPIC has been around since last year. It was born out of COVID, and we did 2 rounds in the fall, and we're doing one more round right now in the spring with a deadline, as Amy said, at the end of this month, April 30th. So we're gonna kind of have a casual conversation here with Joanne and Remy. So to just kick us off, just a question for both of you is, why did you decide to join EPIC? Why did you think your institution would benefit from joining a platform like EPIC?
So I can go ahead and start. So we were obviously stunned by the pandemic, as I think every other institution of higher ed was, and the ability to engage with students, or have the ability for students to engage with us, was awesome. It was just an additional touch point and kind of like the icing on the cake. You know, I'm sure that students have the opportunity to do virtual events, but this was more personalized to them. And the fact that like we use Slate, so it was we were able to attach a link of their EPIC to their application so we could view when we were reading, was just awesome.
Yeah, I'll chime in. So ditto everything Joanne said. I think one major, I don't want to call it a selling point, but one major thing that we were drawn to was part of the mission of EPIC, and this idea of really partnering with community-based organizations nationwide. We are aware on the college end of the inequities as they present themselves in the application process, not just in the admissions process, in the actual application process, right? And the fact is, we see fewer first-generation students, low-income students, and oftentimes that corresponds with BIPOC students doing interviews, right? So often many of us offer those on campus, right? And there are direct correlations, right, to particular populations of students taking advantage of those interview slots, right? So to have the chance to partner with EPIC, knowing that we are sort of broadcasting and pushing out this idea of an interview to students who normally wouldn't have access or wouldn't think that they would have access to this sort of thing, was pretty great. I think also sort of the casual nature of it, the approachability of a program like this was pretty appealing to us, right? Knowing that sometimes official interviews can be really scary and intimidating, and students sometimes don't feel like that's the right space for them to tell us about themselves. This felt much more human. I think somebody said earlier in this presentation, the sort of humanization of the process was really appealing.
Can I ask you, so I just made this pitch, fake pitch, but still it's in the system. Can I ask you just to explain what happens now? Like when you see that pitch in your office, what's happening on behind the curtain on the other side?
Yeah, so once you filter through and you get the pitches back, it's like magic almost. It's so exciting to see what the students came up with. I think there were a little bit of uncertainty to what the students were going to come up with, but it was awesome. So much candidness, openness, honest, and I will call attention to the fact that Amy said that there was no ability to edit. That's my favorite part because it's 100% the student, 100% of the 90 seconds. So I love that there wasn't the option to take out something that you didn't like. And I don't know, I kind of like the quirky nature of some of the videos. So I was really pumped to see, I like the little bit of mess up and just the more realistic nature of it.
Yeah, I think Amy, your depiction of what happens on the student end seems super accurate. It's also a really good representation of what happens on our end. So if you have students who like sit and think and like, oh, I only have 90 seconds, like we do that too on the admissions end, and then we realize with 3 seconds left, we're like, oh shoot, we're out of time. Like we do the same thing. So I would say that's a really good representation of both sides of this cycle. But I will say, the way that Joanne mentioned the sort of authenticity in potential mess ups, like ditto that, right? Like do it a couple times if you want, right? To get the shot that you want, but like it doesn't have to be perfect, right? It shows us that it's authentically you. If you're like, oh shoot, I stumbled over my words, or the dog just barked, like that happens to us too. We also realize you're 17, right? We know you're not professional speakers. Like we know it's not going to be absolute perfection. So don't stress yourselves if that's the case.
Amy and I have had the opportunity to talk to a several number of students when talking about EPIC, and the question we always get is, what should I talk about? And it doesn't matter, how many times we say, just talk about yourself, but would you be able to, and having been on the receiving end and watching a lot of videos, could you just give a little bit more color to what you think needs to be talked about or not talked about, or what the answer should be in this regard?
Sure. So I always like to, when I'm done reading an application, I try to sum up the student in a couple of words, and whether it's their activities or descriptions from counselors. So I would say use the opportunity to talk to us about something you're really passionate about. Don't talk about, if you're not pumped about math and you don't want to study math in college, obviously don't pick that topic, but pick something that you're really passionate about, because it's the passion that we can see and, take and understand from when you're speaking. So take the opportunity to speak about something that is important to you and meaningful to you and something that we want to hear about. It doesn't have to be something, one in a million. Just if you really like daisies and you want to talk about daisies, we would love to hear about it. It really doesn't matter the subject. I just think it's whatever is important to each student.
Yeah, so that was Joanne did a really good job of sort of capturing like what can you talk about. I think there was also a question of what should you not talk about. So maybe I'll tackle that part of it. One thing that I saw students talking about quite a bit in their EPIC videos that I don't think you really need to spend the time with is sort of running through their resume a little bit, right? Students saying, hey, I do this activity, this activity, this activity. That's totally fine. But like if you're going to apply to our colleges, we're going to see that, right? When you apply. Students telling us, hey, I have straight A's in this class, in this class, this class, we're going to see that too, right? Like if you're really good at math, we're going to see it. It's going to be all over your transcript. You probably have a math teacher writing a letter of recommendation for you, right? So we're going to see that stuff. It's not that it's bad stuff. It's just that you get 90 seconds to tell us anything you want. And if you can give us some sort of new, fresh information that we won't get elsewhere in the application process, that can be really beneficial, right? I found that I was most excited by videos that gave me something I wouldn't find in an application, right? Where I felt like I used this 90 seconds to really get to know the student a little bit better than I otherwise would.
So this year, I'm gonna guess that you weren't physically at any college fairs like you would have been in past years, and I would also guess that you probably were still doing outreach through virtual means. Can you tell us a little bit about how this experience working with EPIC and kind of exchanging views with students through EPIC was different than maybe the virtual college fair or virtual presentations that you were doing at schools? Can you tell us, just give us a little bit of context around how it's different?
you want to go first, Remy?
Sure, yeah, I can start. I thought that the EPIC platform offered a good first touch point, right? Which when I think of a standard college fair, students or counselors, if you've been to college fairs, you've seen that initial touch point, right? Where it's like, oh, like awkward at first, and you kind of slowly approach the table and you're like, should I go to this one, right? Like it feels the same virtually. And we get a quick snippet of who you are, right? And we make that first connection. What we don't have, unless a student initiates it often, is that sort of lingering time afterwards to connect with a student, right? If you've ever been to a college fair and touched base with a counselor, sometimes you'll circle back to a table, right? Because you had a really great conversation, or you're chatting and a counselor will say like, hey, like stay here, let me give you this information, or let me give you my card because I think there's some really great stuff that we can tell you, right? That's possible through the EPIC program, but I think much of it relies on us seeing continued interest from the students, right? Like you send us your 90 seconds, we send you our 30 seconds back. And then if you ghost us, it's hard for us to tell if you're really super excited about us beyond sort of the average bear, right? In our system, right? So we don't want to bug you too much if we don't feel like you're that interested in our college, right? So if you really are interested, I would say continue that relationship with us, right? And continue to show us that you're excited about us. It doesn't have to be 7 emails a week, right? But I do feel like that part was different, right? The initial touch point was the same, I felt, as a college fair, but we lost sort of that lingering time afterwards that students now should try to initiate via email or phone call if they prefer.
So we kind of thought of it like college dating app, so this is like the new like college connection, which I think is kind of funny because students, this is how they're connecting with each other. So yeah, it was pretty cool to see the follow-up with students and the ability to keep connecting with them. And like Remy said, we obviously know when you don't respond back. So it's nice if you are interested in us, keep engaging. I love doing the videos. I'm pumped about it. I'm watching them. So if you're really interested, it would be nice for you to keep going on through the process because we will respond back.
Can I ask a quick follow-up? I'm just curious, what kind of opportunities did you offer students? So when you went back to continue the conversation, what were some of the things that students could do? Obviously, they probably knew your email by then, but what else did you offer them?
Yeah, so we offered like drop-in hours that students could attend that were specific for EPIC students. That are obviously access to any of our virtual events was super easy to keep doing, but just any kind of like email, hey, I saw you on EPIC, I was a student from EPIC, I did an EPIC, high five, anything like that, we love to see.
Yeah, our approach was similar, talking a lot of students mentioned particular programs that they were interested in. We tried to drop some info about that. The nice thing about the counselor video response is that we get an area to type some stuff. And so we would drop links a lot of the time in our response. I think the time of year really dictates a lot of what we're telling students, right? I'm particularly excited about the round of interviews or elevator pitches, I should say, coming up, because the fact that it's for many students spring of their junior year means we can talk about some of the like virtual visit programs or maybe in-person visit programs that are going to be happening in the summer and the fall, right? Which we didn't necessarily have the option to talk about late last fall, right? So the time of year is going to dictate a lot of this. But that's something to look forward to, right? If you're doing EPIC coming soon. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you talked about how it's like a dating app, Joanne, because I remember when I was an admissions officer, we often made that analogy that it really is dating, and it's a two-way street. It's not just the student and not just the university rejecting you or liking you. You have to also be the one that's trying to find your fit. And I think that's part of it. You're not a good fit for all universities out there. And so trying to figure that out is definitely a big part of the dating process of colleges. So this is a wonderful way to do it because it's not just a one-way street, it's a two-way street where communication is happening both ways. So if you wouldn't mind just spelling out again, just once the student does their video and sends it to and selects their high fives, if you could explain what the process is like on your end and what you're expecting from the student for those who selected you as high fives, and maybe if you could also speak to reaching out, what the process is like for you reaching out to students that didn't select you as a high five, because even if you don't select a university as a high five, all the participating institutions have access to your video. So they may also reach out if you could just touch on that.
So if you didn't select this as a high five, there's a pretty cool filter so that we can see any student that is interested in the characteristics of Hamilton, which is awesome. So when, after we were done going through the high fives, I went through and filtered to see every student who kind of fit our category. And I was like, hey, I was watching your video. It was really awesome. Here are some cool ways to check out Hamilton. So that was pretty fun. And then we got some responses from that. Remy, do you want to talk about the students with high fives?
Sure. Yeah, I think you did a great job capturing that. So the big thing that we looked for, right, like once we got high five videos from students, or selected, I suppose, as high fives from a student after they made their video, we would send our initial response. And then we tried to rely a fair amount on what we call communication flow in our office, right? So like we would put those students into our slate system, right? Just our sort of communication system with students, to reach out to them broadly to tell them about specific events that were happening, right? So we send out emails roughly once a month-ish saying, hey, like you actually look like you qualify for this scholarship program, you should check it out, right? Like all of the sort of filters, right? The sort of identifiers that you have in our system tag you for certain communications that we think are particularly relevant for you, right? So students are now getting those emails broadly from our institution, but then we also had the email to the ability to follow up via email with particular students that we thought more specific communications might be helpful, right? So if we came across a student who said, I really love music, like I know I want to major in that, I'm super good at trumpet and trombone and tuba, we could follow up and just say like, hey, you should look into this program, right? Like even if you're not a music major, you should look into this option, right? So that they were getting emails that covered more than just what we talked about through elevator pitch, right? From our college broadly, but also some specific communication from the elevator pitch team here in our office.
Great, thank you. So I want to ask one last question before we move on to questions from those who are attending our webinar. So for those of you who are new to this whole platform, I want to let you know that your EPIC pitch, while it is being used more as a tool to get to know universities, once you apply to a university, you can actually send that same video, or you can re-record and send it as part of your actual application. And at that point, it's not limited to just those institutions that are on the EPIC platform. You can send it to any institution that you're applying to. So a question for Joanne and Remy, what role does a 90-second video play for you as you're shifting from, recruitment mode to reading application mode? Yeah, what role does a 90-second video play?
I think it helps us determine fit. It's just an additional way for us to see if the student fits in with our institution and if they're looking for the same things that we have to offer. It's also really nice because for students who weren't able to visit or don't have, sturdy internet, but have an hour at school, they can log into their EPIC and send us something that way. So it's an additional way that the students can engage with us. And we use that to help gauge their engagement, and especially the high fives. It was like, awesome, cool. The student really thinks that they belong here. So we want to consider them and take that into consideration.
Yeah, I think we found it was really helpful in getting at least a snapshot of student personality, right? I've been doing this for 10 years and it is still sometimes really hard to get a beat on a student's personality, right? When all we do is read about them, right? Like we look at documents on a computer screen and, we hear teachers, what they have to say about students, but that's not always the same as interacting directly with a student, right? Sometimes you can tell when a student would hop on their video immediately, so much energy would come through that video, right? And it was like, okay, like this is something I may not have otherwise picked up on through an application, right? That is oftentimes students are sort of taught to have that application be professional and well manicured, right? And sometimes, I don't want to say it stifles personality, but sometimes it doesn't let that personality through as much as that sort of unfiltered interaction, right? Through a video. So I found that to be very helpful. I would imagine it may also be helpful to institutions that look at things like demonstrated interest, right? And that's not something that Carleton does, so I can't speak to that firmly, but if you have institutions that are looking at how interested you are in a school, right? And that factors into decisions for limited spots, right? And you're saying, hey, not only am I sending you my video, you are one of my high 5 schools, right? You're one of my top 5 schools that I'm really excited about. That can only help in a process that's already really competitive.
Yeah, and just to add to that, when you send an elevator pitch as part of your application, you actually have access to 2 virtual stars, and you can also assign it to one of your top 2 colleges, which is definitely a good way to demonstrate interest.
I think we lost you on mute there, John Rock.
Sorry, was I on mute the whole time? Okay, just my mistake. Thank you. So there's some operational questions. So these questions are for you, Amy, and myself. So Amy, how long will it take to hear back from schools? And I guess this is also a question for Joanne and Remy.
Well, so the deadline, again, is very important for you to make sure that as a student you get it in by the deadline. But it's also important on the university side because that's kind of the date where the gates open and they have access to all those videos. So most likely you'll start to hear from universities in the week after the deadline. So early May for this round is a time where you'll start to see definitely the high 5 responses come through. And then probably as universities are now fully enjoying your videos, they'll also start to send out responses if you didn't high 5 them. But early May for spring. Does that sound right? Am I pushing too hard? Good.
Yeah, which is why we have a deadline because once it's all we have it all in, then admissions officers are able to go in it at one time, and it's not drips and drabs. They can look at it in one go. So yeah, great. What is the cost of using this platform?
So this is my favorite question and also my favorite answer. It's absolutely free. It is absolutely free to use EPIC for anyone, and the elevator pitch, which goes with your application, is free for any student who would qualify for a fee waiver through NACAC, through College Board, or if you actually are actively engaged with one of those community-based organizations that we've referenced through this webinar. I think it's really important just to say it's actually it's so easy to get the waiver. So even if you're doing the elevator pitch in that second round after you've applied, you will find that there's no barrier for cost in that space, and we're really proud to have that. But EPIC's free for everybody. It's a recruiting platform that is available. You'll notice that when I did mine, there was no screen that asked me for my credit card or how I was going to pay or when I was going to pay. It's all free.
Yeah, there's a specific question about how students are able to designate whether or not they are fee waiver eligible.
So when you're doing EPIC, it doesn't matter because it's free for everyone. For the elevator pitch process, there will be a screen where you need to just answer in the affirmative that you would qualify for a fee waiver, or that you do have free or reduced lunch, or that you are actively participating in a community-based organization program. And then it's free. It's as easy as that. You don't have to give any documentation, just like the answers to those questions I gave when making my EPIC pitch. No one's going back to check it. We're just asking you to give us your word, and we will, in exchange, make sure that you don't get charged. For students who aren't eligible for the waiver, that is it. For EPIC, it's still free. For elevator pitch with the application, it's $22. So I think that's if you couldn't confirm that you're eligible for a waiver, it would be $22. I'll be honest, it is a whole lot harder to pay on that app than it is. So the first screen that comes up is going to ask you if you qualify for the waiver before anyone's asking you to pay. So But remember, talking about 2 different platforms. Epic's free for everybody. Elevator pitch free for anyone who would match any waiver criteria, and $22 for those who have the means to pay it.
Okay, so these are questions for our admissions officers. Question about different personalities and whether or not something like a video favors those who are maybe more extroverted or bubbly or more demonstrative. What have you found on your end?
I don't think so. I feel like it's just an opportunity for us to see the student. It's not so much how they show up. I guess it's what they say and what they're sharing with us. So for me, it wasn't like the best students weren't the students who were super outgoing or super loud. I didn't have that experience with it. Maybe yours was different, Remy.
No. I think this is a really good question because it's a question that we often get asked about our general interview process at Carleton as well, right? Sometimes students will call us or parents will call us and say, hey, like my student is an introvert or my student is quiet or shy, right? And just, is this the best space for them, right? And I think it's important to remember that like campuses are full of a very diverse group of people, and we are not just looking for extroverts. Like, you know, I spoke before about feeling sort of a palpable energy coming through some of the videos, and for some students it's because they were excited and talking, and like I could tell, and I was like, yeah, like that student is full of some kind of energy. Right? For other students, that energy came through in sort of the intensity behind their words and their thoughtfulness, right? So we are trained in the admissions end to search for different types of perspective, right? And for different types of potential, right? So I think it's important to remember we are not looking for any particular thing. We're just trying to get a beat on a student. And if a student is an introvert, great. If they're an extrovert, great. If they're quiet, totally fine, right? Like we are not looking for everyone to be overly demonstrative or, you know, out of the box, wacky, full of life. Like if that's not you, don't try to put that through in a video, right? If we get a true sense of who you are, regardless of who you are, that's what we're looking for. That authenticity is the main part of this that we're excited about.
Great, thank you. So there's a question about for those students that didn't give your institution a high five, what has compelled you to respond to them? So maybe in answering this, Remy and Joanne, I don't know if you're able to give a little bit of detail about examples of what an authentic video looks like to you, if you are able to. I know it's a hard question, but you're able to give a little bit of color.
So one of my most authentic high fives was a student. She was in her room and she just started talking about her favorite thing, which was gardening. And she took a frame off the wall of a flower that she had like flattened and just talked about the flower. And that was it. I just thought it was super cool. She was just very excited about the flower. I was excited about to learn about the flower. And I think because it was just on the fly and just her own, obviously very personal to her, I think that was awesome. It was really awesome. And then as far as compelled, I mean, I work in admissions, right? So I want you to come to my college. So if somebody fits our profile, of course, I'm going to see if they would like to learn more about Hamilton, because part of it is a lot of these students have never heard of Hamilton or Carleton before. So if I can expose them to, you know, one school in the Northeast, I hope to be it.
Yeah, I think the filters were pretty helpful. I think Joanne talked about this earlier in our hour together. Both Hamilton and Carleton are pretty selective places, right? So being able to really hone in on students that we felt like would sort of fit our academic criteria was a good first step. I'll be honest, I didn't pay a ton of attention to the part of the country that students sort of designated, right? I think oftentimes the Midwest is flyover country. It was for me as well when I was 17, right? Knowing nothing about the Midwest, I was like, nah, I don't want to go. Right? So we didn't pay attention to that a whole lot. We know that student choices and preferences change quite a bit. So if we saw things in the video that we were like, actually, yeah, like this student feels like they could be a good fit for Carleton, we definitely reached out. One student in particular that I remember reaching out to spoke quite a bit about her love of writing, but as she was talking about it, she was weaving all of these other different areas into it, talking about her perspective as a young woman, right? And how much she also loved history and how that influenced her writing, right? And a student that is able to talk about their excitement with interdisciplinary learning, I was like, yep, like that is liberal arts, right? Like this student is going to be such a great fit, not just at a Carleton, but Hamilton or a McAllister or other places as well, right? So I definitely remember reaching out to her.
Great, thank you so much. Well, I want to be mindful of the time as we are soon reaching the top of the hour here. So just want to give each of you here an opportunity to just say any parting words, words of just advice for, I mean, on our call here, we have students who are, one that's a junior. I know that there are counselors also on this call. So your advice for how they should be interacting with EPIC.
I just think we should do it. We receive thousands of applications, and I'm not sure about the process at Carleton, but at Hamilton, we read together. It is long hours, and it is really nice to see somebody's face and their excitement to talk about, their prospect of going to college. So you will make our day. It's totally worth it. It will take all of 5 minutes to create your profile and send us a video. And I really enjoy seeing the videos from students because it's just a little part of you. So do it. There's nothing to lose, and nobody else is going to see it except for the admission counselors. Like, I'm not sending it to anybody. So know that, what you send is your authentic self, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more.
Yeah, I think it's important for students to keep in mind that we care about the things that you're saying, and we care about the things that you're sending us. And I remember not thinking those things at 17. I remember thinking, why would college admissions officers care about, this part of my life or this part of my life? And I think, to be honest, the sort of less glamorous parts of my life, right? The parts of my life that were really hard and that I sort of left out of my application because I thought to myself, they don't want to hear about this. They don't want to see this. They want to see, good student with good grades. They want to see me, leadership. They want to see these certain activities, right? And yeah, I had those, but like there was a big part of my life that I left out of the application. And it's important for you to remember that we care about the things going on in your life, not just the things you think are super compelling, not just the things that you think are prestigious, right? So if the most important thing in your life is your baby sister or your dog or your parents or the job that you work to help with your family, like we care about that stuff, right? So I would say to reiterate, what Joanne touched on, pick something that's really important to you, right? Pick something that you really care about. And I know it's hard, but please don't script them. I know it's super, super hard, and it's really, really enticing to like write out everything that you want to say to make sure you can fit it. Like 90 seconds isn't a lot. And I totally get that. But we get a better sense of you when you're kind of just riffing, right? When you're just letting it fly, right? And sort of talking about who you are in an authentic manner. We're not here to judge it. We're not here to criticize it. We're not here to say, they made a mistake. Like, we'll make them too, I promise, in our videos back to you. Right? So just give us 90 seconds of who you truly are.
I would just say from a space where you're doing research, this is such an incredible gift. You should look at as many of these videos as you can. I was the first person in my family to go to college. I felt like I knew a very limited number of schools, and I felt some of those I knew wouldn't be interested in me, right? So this, I think, is such a wonderful opportunity for you in your own time, in your own space, to really just explore and listen. And the people doing these videos care so much about the process and the outcome and about you as a student. And I think it comes across in what they're presenting, but you have to take the time to go and look at them. And admittedly, there are a lot of them. So maybe carving out some time, maybe well before the deadline, to be able to really get in there and watch videos and kind of make some notes for yourself about places that are brand new to you. And, if you need to, while you wait for their reply for the high fives, you can go out and do some research on your own, do some web searching to sort of grow what you've learned from their 90 seconds. And I don't know, I think it's just a really great opportunity. For those of you who are juniors or younger, you'll have this opportunity again, right? You could do it again in the fall. There's no reason not to. And I think Remy mentioned that you'll change your mind. Of course you will. So you might answer questions differently. You might have a whole different pitch, something else you want to say. You might choose a different set of high fives. All that's fine, because that's part of growth through the process. So as many times as you like, when these rounds open, you should feel free to participate and learn and show your interest. If you want to show your interest to the same school again, great. But if you want to choose a new set because you've learned some more, great too.
I'll just add that Amy and my email is here in this chat box. So please feel free to reach out with your questions that were not answered here. And Remy mentioned this earlier on today, that this was definitely designed to partner with community-based organizations. And so if you are one, you're part of one, we'd love to hear from you. We definitely think this is a powerful platform to help those who may not have the same access to college, to help them get their voice out. But also know that this is not limited to those who are just parts of community-based organizations. This is open and free to everyone and anyone that wants to learn more about universities and get a better handle on their college choice. So thank you so much for joining us today. A big thank you to Joanne and Remy. Amy and I are very grateful that you spent your hour on a Friday afternoon with us. So very grateful for that. Thank you. And big thanks to everyone here who joined us today. We'd love to hear from you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.